You know, some of these guys, you know, the real tough interviewers. So John Humphrey's phone, okay, Jamie, how are you going to explain this, Human Rights Watch? So we do the interview and he starts and I say, but John, have you read the report? John, did you not see that on page 30 it says this, this, this? The headline that came out was NATO rejects Human Rights Watch allegations. It was not Human Rights Watch criticises NATO. In other words, we got the refutation into the news cycle through anticipation, through knowing about it in advance and being prepared. Now, it's like, have any of you seen the Woody Allen film, Annie Hall? Yeah, you know, he's in the cinema queue, Woody Allen, with Diane Keaton, and he's talking about Marshall McLuhan. You remember the great American intellectual? Somebody comes up and says, I'm a professor, I know all about Marshall McLuhan, you're talking rubbish. The next thing, Marshall McLuhan comes up and says, no, I am Marshall McLuhan, and this guy knows me much better than you. And Alan turns to the camera and says, do you not wish it could always be like this? Well, it's a little bit like that. I'm not suggesting, ladies and gentlemen, that this thing works on every occasion. But knowing your adversaries, investing in them in peace, in good times, having a friendly relationship, exchanging information can help you. Finally, how do you set up an effective media operation? Well, you've got to have a good organisation. First of all, grid planning. What are we going to do Monday? What are we going to do Tuesday? What's the story Thursday? You have to have, like in an election campaign, a sense of what you're going to have for the media on every day. And if you don't have everything on Friday, you need to know on Monday that you don't have a story on Friday, so you need to look for a story on Friday. Of course, it doesn't always work. You know, there can be a thunderstorm, there can be an earthquake, but most of the time, if you've planned a story, that will be the story that the media picks up. So you need a theme of the day. Today we're going to do war crimes. Tomorrow we're going to do a day in the life of a pilot. On Thursday we're going to do military strategy. Doesn't matter. And of course what you do is get all of your spokespeople addressing the theme of the day. Chirac talks about war crimes. Blair talks about war crimes. Clinton gives a press conference on, guess what, war crimes. There's only that theme. The media obviously have to pick up that theme. You don't give the media 15 different stories. What a waste. You focus on the story of Monday, story of Tuesday, and how you can make it as convincing as possible. So you need people writing scripts, people preparing materials, people writing op-eds, people writing speeches, because you can present the material in a variety of different ways. Blogs, SMS messages, videos, whatever it is. I mentioned conference calls. You need a media strategy group to plan. Are we doing well? Are we doing badly? Is the message getting across? Where is the message not getting across? Do we need to put more emphasis on this? You need a research unit giving you information. And finally, as I said, you need a media monitoring unit. You need to know what's being said about you in New Zealand. Finally, as I come to the end, what are sort of the lessons I learned, the sort of the rules of the road, the guidebook of a communicator? Well, let me just list a couple. The first one is to deliver your message to the media. Not have the media only delivering its message to you. It's not always easy, but you want the media reporting what you're saying, not your reaction to what the media is saying about you. Develop a thick skin. Don't overreact to bad news. I worked, as you know, with Willie Klaas when he was Secretary General of NATO at the beginning, and I remember, when the story of the Augusta helicopter broke, the immediate reaction was to go on the radio and deny it immediately, and react immediately. But it's very important when bad news occurs to figure out first and foremost, what is our strategy? What are we going to say about this? How can we best handle it? The temptation is to say, these guys are wrong and I'm going to tell them they're wrong, how dare they say this about me, and immediately, with lots of emotions and anger, to storm out and say that they're all a bunch of liars or whatever, but it's not always a wise thing to do. Develop a thick skin. You're going to be criticised if you're dealing with the media, if you're a spokesman. It's part of the job, but it's best to give an intelligent response than an emotional response. So don't give the facts before you know the facts. In an organisation, it's important to know that everybody has the same information. The worst thing is that the general in Naples contradicts what the general in Pristina is saying, which is a story that happened in NATO this morning, where two of our military commanders said diametrically opposite things. That doesn't look good. So make sure that everybody knows what the facts are and what the line is. Don't have too many spokesmen. The more people you have talking to the press, the more risk that there's going to be a contradiction. Concentrate on TV. Because in a crisis everybody watches TV. TV updates the news faster. Newspapers only appear once a day, obviously. Time magazine only appears once a week. But the great thing about TV is that they sort of, they broadcast what you're saying. How many times have you given an interview to a newspaper and you read it the next day and you think, oh my God, is this really what they think I said? Did I really say this? God, I've often sort of, been with a journalist and said, can't you change that word or can't you change that headline? Of course, you talk to newspapers, you have no control over how it comes out. You just pray that the journalist is going to be accurate, understands the subtleties, the nuances, puts what you say accurately. TV's much better because it's raw. It's you and you speaking and what you're saying. And as I've said before, ladies and gentlemen, cultivate journalists in good times. Because even if you are in trouble, a journalist rarely wants to ruin a good relationship with somebody. Craig Whitney of the New York Times came into my office once and said, Jamie, you've given the worst press conferences that I've ever heard. Oh, God. But it's not your fault. I know it's not your fault because we've been together for 6 years and you've always given me accurate information. So I'm going to write an article criticising you, but I'm going to give you 50% of the article to give you a response. This was painful, very painful. Nobody likes to be criticised. But because I had a good relationship with this journalist, he at least did not try to do it in a totally destructive assassination way and was fair and told me about it and gave me a chance to explain my point of view. So, develop good ties with the media before the crisis. One other thing too, as I come to the end, is to be very clear when dealing with the media what your responsibility is. I mean, NATO, because we're in nation-building operations, we're often asked by the media, what's the goal? And often the media I will say to the media, well, we've had some success, the Taliban attacks have gone down. Yeah, but you haven't solved the drugs problem yet, have you? Well, no, we haven't solved the drugs problem, and the Afghans are still very poor, aren't they? They're still very poor, and there's a lot of corruption in the government still. Yeah, you're right about that. And I said, but wait a minute, that's not our responsibility. Our job is to do X, Y, and Z, not A, B, C, D, E. So do not judge us by things that we ourselves